This really is a massive event, almost like the kind of Republican National Convention that we were at in the summer of 2024. A major event there, tens of thousands of people within the stadium, many more people outside who've been turned away to the overflow area. One spokesperson for the Glendale Police Department in Arizona said that they expected over 200,000 mourners who were there to attend that service today. And of course, there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions more, watching online as well. There's around 500,000 watching just on Charlie Kirk's YouTube channel right now, and many are donating hundreds and hundreds of dollars in the live chat as well. It's really remarkable scenes there. There's also a lot of officials in attendance at that memorial service. In Arizona, there were two planes that left D.C. this morning, Air Force One and another, filled with many of the top ranks of the U.S. government here. Most of the cabinet is there. The Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, the House Speaker Mike Johnson, the White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, lots of other White House staff there as well, and more extended non-official people are also there. Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner, of course, Trump's sons are there as well. Elon Musk is there as well. Of course, he had a position in the government and famously doesn't anymore. But yes, many major political figures, including the president and Vice President J.D. Vance, expected to speak today, along with Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk. Many there extremely excited to hear from Kirk's widow, who's now become the CEO of that activism organization, Turning Point USA, that Charlie started and became so influential in Republican politics. The event started with Rob McCoy, who says that Charlie Kirk considered him to be his pastor. He started the service by saying Charlie was never afraid because he knew his life was secure in the hands of God. We've also heard from major donors to Kirk's Turning Point USA organization, who praised his ability to fundraise, which of course enabled a massive shift in the ground game for Trump's 2024 electoral campaign. And Kirk's speeches on university campuses across the UK and his social media presence and podcasts also producing a groundswell of youth support for Donald Trump, which the president believes helped hand him the keys to the White House once again. We also heard from Kirk's former chief of staff, who quoted the Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard, who said, "The tyrant dies and his rule is over, but the martyr dies and his rule begins." That really has been the overwhelming theme from the speakers that we've heard so far, that this is martyrdom for Charlie. They've used that word many times over the course of the hour and a half or so that this service has been going on.
Fraser, it's quite unique to see this many people and this kind of reaction to someone who was not in any kind of political position. Let's bear in mind, he was effectively a podcaster, a debater at university campuses, very much the mouthpiece of young conservatives. In fact, his debate partner has just come out with a statement saying that Kirk was the blueprint for young conservatives worldwide. Is this the new kind of reality that we are in now, where someone like Charlie Kirk could galvanize that conservative base to such an extent that even no politician could?
I mean, I think, the only real other person that we've seen this kind of outpouring of support for really is Donald Trump himself. I mean, of course, Charlie Kirk didn't, at least we are not aware of political aspirations of him just yet. There is rumblings that he was one day rumored to be running for president, or at least wanted to in his own mind. But the level of outpouring that we've seen has been frankly phenomenal. It's hard to believe a stadium's filled of people for many other podcasters or people like that. These scenes would be kind of unthinkable, really. But of course, that is the power that social media and YouTube has. It has completely revolutionized the way that people consume their media, and also made people feel a lot closer to these people than traditional media does. It's Charlie Kirk and many of his podcast brethren in the kind of brosphere, as it's been nicknamed, but also on the left as well. They have audiences that traditional and legacy media could only dream of. You know, if you're looking at the viewing figures for people like CNN or MSNBC, even Fox News, which by far and away is the most consumed news network of the legacy media, these podcast hosts are getting numbers that they could only dream of. So, you know, there really is a massive amount of media that is consumed by the youth and by other people as well. And the fact that these content creators produce so much of this content, you know, they do daily shows on TikTok or YouTube, and these content pieces are always available to consume whenever people want them. They really forge a much deeper bond with these kind of people than traditional journalists or anchors or that people would see on their televisions. So this really has felt very personal for a lot of people here in the United States. Of course, it's also felt very personal for people in the administration who class Charlie as a friend more than just an activist who was helping them with campaign things. A lot of people were extremely close, including, of course, the Vice President J.D. Vance, who eulogized Charlie Kirk in a lengthy post on Twitter in the days following his death.
And we're going to get J.D. Vance speaking in just a few minutes, of course, after the president himself. You mentioned at length the reach that these podcasters have, and that's why we've seen, that State Farm in Arizona, it has about a capacity of 70,000. It does host Super Bowl finals, and the crowds have spilled out far and wide around the stadium, getting the most of that atmosphere, at least from what we can see in the pictures as well. What legacy is his wife, Erica, his widow now? What is she going to be taking with Turning Point? How do we expect her to remain closely tied with the Trump administration and with this platform going forward?
Well, Turning Point definitely changed the way that the Republican Party fundraises, the way it engages with the average voter, and it really brought in a fresh batch of voters, the youth movement that came into the Trump administration and into the Republican Party more generally because of Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA, was frankly outstripping many other political movements we've seen, especially on the Democratic side. And a lot of Democrats were kind of envious of how efficient Charlie Kirk's organization was at getting these youth involved, and we're expecting that work to continue. Of course, Erica Kirk has said that this is only the beginning and that it's going to continue. She is now the CEO of this movement. She gave a speech in the days following his assassination from the podcast studio, from the desk where Charlie Kirk did his podcast from. She kind of laid out, how she was feeling and laid out her vision for the future as well. And she was announced the CEO shortly after his death, just to really symbolize that kind of changing of power and the continuation of that movement. So going forward, it's definitely going to still be going, where they've seen a massive influx of donations in the wake of Charlie's assassination. Again, even just in the live chat of his YouTube channel, there has been hundreds and hundreds, thousands of dollars pouring into this live chat over the course of this memorial service being streamed on his YouTube channel. And a lot more, of course, of the big ticket donors are also giving money to Turning Point USA as well, which says that it's going to continue its work across the university campuses all around the United States. But of course, they've also got chapters abroad that are trying to spread the message of the Make America Great Again movement. So Turning Point is definitely here to stay, and it's definitely going to have an impact going forward to the midterms in 2026, and of course the presidential election in 2028. Who the Republican Party's candidate for that election is going to be obviously remains to be seen. Right now, this movement is centered around Donald Trump. It's very hard to imagine anybody else coming in and taking his place. But of course, Donald Trump himself has also flirted with the idea of potentially changing the Constitution and running for a third term. So we'll see what happens.
Fraser, thank you